You stare at the grid of Spanish verb conjugations. Hablo, hablas, habla. You try to memorize the endless variations of AR, ER, and IR endings. But the moment you try to actually speak, the rules tangle together, leaving you paralyzed in the middle of a sentence. Enter Kató Lomb. Lomb was a polyglot, a person who speaks multiple languages fluently. She mastered 16 of them as an adult, working at the highest professional levels as one of the world's first simultaneous interpreters. While most of us sweat over grammar workbooks, Lomb argued that our entire approach is backward. We try to learn the language from the grammar instead of the other way around. If you want to actually speak Spanish fluently, working harder at rote memorization won't help. You have to reverse the relationship between grammar and context. Lomb's rule: one learns grammar from language, not language from grammar. Absorb the context and the rules reveal themselves, hidden inside it. She called this the tuning fork method. Internalize patterns, and any mistake rings false in your mind's ear. Developing this intuitive ear means putting down the textbook. Instead, Lomb relied on 10 distinct tactical rules to hack the learning process. This equation shows Lomb's mathematical approach to fluency. Your result equals the time spent studying plus your motivation, divided by your level of inhibition. Rule 1. Tinker with the language daily. A 10-minute Spanish monologue spoken out loud on your morning commute yields far better results than a grueling 3-hour study session once a week. Rule 2 is about momentum. When reading a dense Spanish text causes fatigue, do not quit. Just switch the medium. Turn on the radio and switch to passive listening to give your brain a rest while staying immersed. Rules 3 and 4 work together. Never learn isolated units of speech and collect prefabricated elements. Memorizing the single word for table is weak. Memorizing a complete phrase like "the book is on the table" gives you a solid structural block you can instantly deploy in a real conversation. Staring at individual flashcards is mathematically inefficient. To make your time count, you must engage with complete contextual language patterns. Rule 5 is the impromptu translation game. Force your brain to translate billboards or signs you see in your environment on the fly. It builds rapid structural agility in your mind without feeling like formal study. Rule 6. Memorize only corrected text. If you memorize your own broken Spanish sentences, you'll damage your internal tuning fork. Pair that with Rule 7. Learn idiomatic expressions in the first person, so you are always ready to speak them yourself. Rule 8 is to besiege the castle. Attack the language from every possible direction. Watch films without dubbing, read technical papers, and seek out native speakers to force passive comprehension into your daily routine. When you move your habits out of the workbook and into the real world, Spanish grammar stops being an academic chore. Instead, it becomes a daily survival mechanism. Let's look back at this equation. The denominator here is inhibition. If your fear of making mistakes expands, it divides your effort and crushes your overall result down to 0. Rule 9 requires you to demand correction without ego. As an amateur, you will make mistakes. If you get defensive or angry when a native speaker corrects your pronunciation, you shut down the feedback loop that creates fluency. Finally, Rule 10. Protect your motivation with irrational confidence. If you struggle, blame the confusing Spanish gender system. Blame the dictionary. Never blame your own brain. You have to preserve your drive to continue at all costs. Breaking through the grammar wall requires protecting your ego. You have to reframe every embarrassing mistake as a vital data point rather than a personal failure. We usually start our language journey staring at a chaotic grid of verb conjugations, hoping they will somehow translate into natural speech. But the end goal is a fluid, contextual understanding of how people actually talk. Lomb proved over decades of work that a language is not a dead mathematical subject to be memorized. It is an organic system that you have to absorb through exposure. Drop the rigid grammar workbooks entirely, embrace those uncomfortable mistakes, and dive directly into a real native Spanish context. Perfect grammar is not the prerequisite to speaking Spanish. It is the ultimate reward for fearless, context-driven listening.